Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Cutting Edge Figure Skating Podcast. My name is Kim Dunaway, and in this episode, I will be covering the ice dance event at the 2024 Four Continents Championship. So, this event was won by Piper Gillis and Paul Poirier of Canada, and it's actually their first Four Continents title. They were previously bronze medalists in both 2019 and 2020 behind Chalk and Bates. And of course, in 2021, there was no Four Continents. In 2022, it was the Olympics. And last season, they were unable to compete after Piper's appendectomy and ovarian cancer diagnosis. So this has been their first opportunity back at Four Continents in a while. And they made the best of it, especially with the withdrawal of Madison Chalk and Evan Bates, who were suffering with the flu at U.S. Nationals last weekend and ultimately made the decision late on Sunday after their event to withdraw. And I think it was a smart decision on their behalf for sure. There was definitely room left at the top of the scoring for them had they had been here, is what you could sort of interpret from that. But we'll get into the results here. So in the rhythm dance with Piper and Paul, they did have a slightly altered costume for Piper. She's gone to just a kind of a one shoulder over. I think she was doing some kind of off shoulder before. Sure, fine, why not? Maybe they wanted to show off the bra a little bit more. So they got a level 2 on their pattern step, but interestingly enough, perhaps a stingy tech caller, I don't know, but not a single team out of the 16 teams that were competing in this event got a level 3 or higher on the pattern step. Only base levels 1s and 2s were handed out in this competition, interestingly enough. So it was on par for the course with the rest of the comp. Piper did stay on one foot during her first and second twizzles, but they were definitely messy and off sync with Paul. I thought the judges were nice. They did not win the twizzle element still, but I thought they were generous with the GOE there. I totally get what people are talking about when they talk about Piper constantly opening her mouth in this performance. Like, it drives me nuts when Katarina Mrazek does that. But I noticed it more than I ever have in this performance. And it was just like, oh my gosh, after like the first like 8 or 10 times, like it's really not as effective anymore. It just becomes annoying. So I totally get it. I do just really love the entry into their curve lift at the end of the program. But only an 85 here in the rhythm dance. Definitely a lot of room over the top of that score for not just Madison and Evan, but at Worlds, potentially the Italians, or even Fear and Gibson. In the free dance, Paul was sporting a new shirt. So they both had slight costume changes, basically the same shirt, just in like this bluish gray instead of a pale pink. So they do, their first lift is the same lift that you see Demogé do and Lemon Kwan do. And as much as I love it when Piper and Paul do it too, I kind of feel like the French team and the Koreans do it a little bit better. Like there's a little bit more snappiness to it than what Piper and Paul do. Again, in her twizzles, like that second set of twizzles was just a little wonky. But yet they got the highest twizzles of the night. So what do I know? I'm just a fan. But overall, it was a strong performance from them in the fact that they didn't have any real competition and they're able to go into Worlds as Four Continents champions. So for the second year in a row, we'll have the European champ, Four Continents champ, and Grand Prix final champ all going head to head for a battle. And like I said, there's room at the top of their score. Interestingly enough, at Grand Prix final, I thought that there was definitely room for Fear and Gibson there. I kind of felt like at Europeans, there was room for a clear Fear and Gibson too. So something to discuss a month from now in a World's preview. But I don't think that it's a done deal that these are going to be your top 3 teams by any stretch. But we'll see. All right, so the number 2 team here was Laurence Fournier-Baudry and Nikolai Sorensen, also of Canada. And this was their first competition since Christine Brennan broke the news about the Safe Sport investigation into Nikolai Sorensen for a sexual assault. I think it was around 10 years ago or so at a party. And so they withdrew from Canadian Nationals, as they should have. And their rationale at the time was didn't want to create any extra distractions for the other skaters that were there. I think we were all a little surprised when they ended up on the Four Continents team still, and they were not replaced. But obviously, Team Canada has decided to take the position that they're not going to do anything until the investigation is complete, which, as we have seen with the Delilah Sappenfield investigation, and even with what Gracie Gold has put in her book, what was published yesterday, that she reported a rape to Safe Sport 5 years ago, and it still hasn't been, that case still hasn't closed, that it's really theoretical that if that's really what Skate Canada is going to do, that theoretically this team could continue to compete all the way to the Olympics. And if that's going to be what they're going to go by, that's a scary thought. It's, oh boy. I think we all sort of thought when this news broke that they were going to go quietly into the night at the end of the season. And I suppose that's still a possibility, but they kind of showed up at this event like nothing has happened. There was no statements. They were told, there was a Canadian official who told the media that was there that they would be answering no questions except about their performances. And so there was a lot of flack from skating Twitter. Why didn't the outlets that were there ask the questions anyway? And so the response that Anna, who is a host on Anything GOE and also the Future of Figure Skating podcast, was like, hey, we're lucky just to have access at all. We don't want to get media credentials taken away for causing trouble. So we're just trying to do what we're told. And that's why it's so important for real journalists like Christine Brennan to come, who have that clout to really sort of push back. So if Christine Brennan wasn't going to Worlds, you better believe she's going to Worlds now, because I know she has been banging, trying to get some type of a statement out of Nikolai Sorensen, Ice Academy of Montreal, somebody close to that team, and she has not been able to. So you better believe she's going to show up at Worlds, and she's not going to be interested in anybody's gag order. So I think that was definitely disappointing that they just kind of didn't say anything, not a statement. I'm not surprised they didn't take questions, but just not anything indicating that this was going on at all. I felt like Laurence was being even more lovey-dovey than usual. And so there were just happy pictures posted after both events on multiple outlets, social media. IAM had them, Ice Academy of Montreal, that is, had their pictures on their social media. Now they turned the comments off. So they obviously know something's going on, right? It's, Romaine is there, as, I don't know. It's just such a bad look. And I get it, like in the world of, innocent until proven guilty to an extent. But yeah, as a woman, I'm always going to be inclined to believe the survivors, because I know, and I'm sure a lot of the listeners feel the same way, people that never reported sexual assault, rape, those types of things. And so much of it goes unreported that when it is reported, your first thought is, oh, that must be false. So while I'm trying to wrap my head around what Laurence might be thinking, or what Ice Academy of Montreal might be thinking, like, what is that other side when you have a loved one who you trust and you believe, and if they tell you that it's not true, like, you're probably going to be inclined to believe that person over somebody that you don't know. But it's just hard as a skating fan to want to watch anything that they do. It just is. So even for me, I've asked myself the question, like, should I skip over them? Should I continue to report about them? Like, I honestly don't really know. And I already wasn't a huge fan of either of these programs anyway. I've been saying that all season. It's like an even harder watch now. So I'll keep my comments to a minimum. I won't even try to be unbiased. I I know Canada hasn't named their world team, and so we can all hope that they're not going to be on the world team. But I would be shocked if they didn't, because they haven't made a stance up until this point. So why are they going to change their tune now? And obviously, there's all kind of issues of, if they don't name them to the team, is Ice Academy of Montreal going to pitch a fit like they did with Olivia Smart and Tim Deek, which I felt like was totally valid, you know? But is there going to be some kind of uproar from their team and threats of lawsuits and things like that? Like, I'm sure Skate Canada is trying to avoid that, but you're about to have a home worlds with someone who was accused of basically rape. Like, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I mean, the media covering figure skating is definitely not what it used to be, but I can't imagine that the press that's going to be at Worlds, whether it's Christine Brennan or whoever else is covering it locally in Montreal, is going to be okay with a gag order and not being out loud to ask questions. I can't see it happening. Now, they're likely not to be on the podium there, or getting small medals in a short program or long program situation. So they could, at the end of the, just decline any press, which may very well be what happens. Who knows? And I've already spent way more time on this team than I want to. So just quickly going through their actual performances here. In the rhythm dance, had some issues with his second set of twizzles and his last set of twizzles. So, perhaps there was an opportunity with a cleaner performance to get a little bit closer to Piper and Paul. I don't see it. Okay, one more thing. I know with Marjorie and Zach's injury, it was so unfortunate that they weren't able to compete here, and they might not even be able to come to Worlds. Who knows? But if they are at Worlds, them, Rita and Ambrulevicius, I'm very interested to see if the judges will score them like they've been scoring them all season in that 5 slot, or if they're going to take this opportunity to just bury them a little bit and put a team or two over the head of them. Like, that's going to be something interesting to see at Worlds. And I'm just wondering, because there wasn't really a team at this competition that they could really do that with. So just throwing that out there. All right. Their free skate was much of the same. I think it was their best score of the year. Whoopee. Okay. Moving on to the number 3 team here, which was Christina Carrera and Anthony Ponomarenko, having their best finish at 4 continents, getting a medal. And I'm reminded that, they're still a really young team. Like, we put so much emphasis on like Zingas and Kolesnik and Brody and Somerville and the Browns, who are all pretty fresh from juniors. But, Christina and Anthony are only 23. So, be 25 2 years from now, and they'd be 29 6 years from now at a potential 2030 Olympics, and perhaps still peaking at that point. So thought they did themselves a lot of favors in this competition, doing well, especially in the rhythm dance when they didn't have any mistakes. So I would say ordinarily they left points on the table with the pattern dance, because I feel like at one of their Grand Prix, maybe they got a level 4 on their pattern step, and here they only got a level 2. But then once everybody went, I saw that everybody got a level 2. They were just kind of in line with what everybody else got. A little bit points left on the table in their twizzles and in their midline step. In their free dance, again, another strong performance for them, with the exception of Christina's twizzles went a little bit awry and only got a level 2. So they actually were only 5th in the free dance. They were behind the 3rd Canadian team, and they were also behind Zingas and Kolesnik, surprisingly. But they had a big enough lead after the rhythm dance, which was their season's best in that aspect of the competition, to stay on the podium about a point ahead of our 4th place team, which was Zingas and Kolesnik. And this was by far and away the best competition of their careers. And I feel like this is what I've been wanting to see from them all season. Like, we've had like that awesome rhythm dance from them, and then an unfortunate free dance. And I feel like the free dance, more so than the rhythm dance, has been sort of the problem for them all season, where there's been an issue in Emilia's twizzles or in her 1 foot step. And so, but here, everything really came together in both programs, and they were just 1 point away on the podium. In the rhythm dance, they actually had the best twizzles of the entire event, which Zingis and Kolesnik had really good twizzles. Like, that's their weakest element. So, like, look out, right? She is just so extra in this rhythm dance. I mean, every single head bob, nod that she can do, every little accent that she can throw with the arms, she is just totally doing it. And I'm here for it. Absolutely love it. In their free dance, again, fantastic performance, the best that we have seen of this all season. Still would love to see them with new material next year. Interestingly enough, I think it was Emilia that told, maybe it was Golden Skate, maybe it was in their outlet, but that this was their third free dance that they did this year, that they actually had two other ones before this one. This is the one that they've done all year in competition. This was before they made it to the competition circuit. And the others just didn't feel right. So I was like, interestingly, it makes sense in a way, because while this is a good free dance, I don't think it's a great free dance. But if it's the kind of the best of what they had composed, that they kept trying to get what worked the best for them, I think shows a lot out of that Igor team, that they're really, really trying to put their best foot forward with this team. Like, they can see the potential that they have, and they don't want to make any mistakes. So the judges were a bit all over the place with them. They had placements all the way from third place to seventh place, which is wild. Ultimately, they were fourth here in the free dance and finished ahead of Christina and Anthony in that segment. And so I think this was huge for them. If they had skated like this at nationals, I mean, they would have been third place and they'd be on their way to worlds. I think they may have skated themselves into a first alternate position for worlds. Alternates will be named, I believe, on February the 8th, so in just a day or two. And we'll see if they did enough here to get that first alternate spot. This is likely the last time that we're going to see them this season, and what a high note for them to go out on. In fifth place here was Marie-Jade Lariat and Romain Legac of Canada. So Canada takes 3 of the top 5 places here. They were originally alternates for 4 continents and got the call when Marjorie and Zach had to withdraw. So this was their best performance, not just of the season, but score-wise, this was their personal best combined score, and that was with a major deduction in the rhythm dance. So in the rhythm dance, again, stronger rhythm dance that they've had really all season, with the exception of that last lift. So this is what she told Golden Skate after the event. We knew it was a tricky lift, as I am upside down and the legs need to be open minimum 45 degrees according to the rules. We need to work on this more, it seems. To my knowledge, this is the only time they've gotten this deduction on this element all season. It's always like a super wow moment in that program. They have had issues largely with their step sequences. The pattern step and their midline step in the rhythm dance has been problematic for them all year, and has really brought them down in the scores in that segment. But here, I thought they were had lots of speed and tons of confidence. And so their original technical score was 44.9. And then when they decided that they gave them a base element on the rotational lift, then their tech score went down to 39.86, and they got negative 2 points for the illegal move. So that cost them about 7 points. And so they would have been on the podium had they not had that call and that mistake on in the rhythm dance, because they were only 4 points from third place. And so that would have caused a Canadian sweep. But and I think it was a huge for them for their going forward. This competition and at Canadian Nationals have been their best 2 competitions that we've seen from them this year. And frankly, that we've seen from them, in my mind, since last year's Grand Prix. We just have not seen them skate to the level. They've had issues in their free skate, even so much during the season, free dance. I know there was one Grand Prix where she fell on a twizzle and they ended up like in 7th place. And so it was really nice here to see them with that potential. And their free dance, people either love or hate this Corpse Bride free dance. Like, some people really love the humor, which I think they do a great job with it, but not everybody loves it. Not everybody gets it. I don't know anything about the Corpse Bride, but I'm entertained, and it's something different, and it is something that they do very well. All right. Sixth place here was Caroline Green and Michael Parsons of the US. And I think that this competition sort of underscores exactly why they got passed over to go to Worlds this year, because here they had largely two rather decent performances and definitely their best free dance of the season, and they were still way behind several other teams. And so I think it's just a good idea. Now, they could still get that first alternate spot, still unlikely to get the call unless somebody gets injured, but I think likely probably going to get passed over by Zingis and Kolesnik for that first alternate spot. And I think that will help them sort of be able to turn the page a bit from this season to next season. So they said that they've been battling some injuries throughout the season, and that sort of led to maybe some of the issues with the performance quality, especially with Michael. I know people have asked the question a few different times, like, he's made so many mistakes this year. Is he injured? Rhythm dance was no different. They really started well in the rhythm dance. Like, I think the midline step sequence when they started, like on the swell of that music, is so effective. But the ending just didn't, things just kind of got a little loose. Like Michael's second set of twizzles, there was a problem. And so that brought them down a little bit. And then overall, it just, for me, with the elements before the midline step, really seemed to lack the intensity of the second half of the program. And it just, to me, I'm just not sure that this routine ever really came together the way that they wanted it to. And it's unfortunate. In the free dance, it was their season's best, but still, level 2 1-foot turn sequences, which again, only Piper and Paul got a level 3 on their 1-foot turn sequence, and on their step sequences, nobody got a level 3 step here. There was a couple of teams, Marie Jade and Romaine, Piper and Paul, that the girl got a level 2 and the guy got a level 3, but nobody got a level 3 on both of their step sequences. So I won't pick on Caroline and Michael too much. Caroline was really disappointed in the score for both of the programs. I still felt, even though there was no major errors here like it was at Nationals, it was still just very underwhelming. So as far as, the rumors, and these are completely unsubstantiated, they're just rumors of people thinking that, well, they need to, throw the baby out with the bathwater and try to get to Ice Academy of Montreal. So after, I don't know if it was after the rhythm dance or after the free dance, probably after the free dance, they basically said, that they have a really good support system. I'll read some of the quotes. We gave everything we had. It felt much better today, talking about the free dance. Everything felt really good. In case this was our last free dance of the season for us, we are ready to go home and we'll be much better next year with more preparation. Caroline says, I'm happy how we managed to stay mentally and emotionally present. It's always hard after 2 long weeks. I'm glad we could enjoy ourselves on the ice. And then Michael says, for next season, we want to concentrate on what makes us strong as a team and show something that represents our strengths. That will be a good direction for next season. And Caroline says, we have a really strong and supportive team around us, and we have a really good plan. So I think we are really well prepared for a sharp off season. And that they said that despite the chronic injuries that they have been battling, that they have the best team around them for handling that also. So, probably said to squash any potential rumors or thoughts or speculation about them moving coaching teams. I don't put anything past anybody. But like I said, after the U.S. Nationals, I think the best thing for them to do is to stay put where they are and just maybe get some outside choreographers or do what needs to be done within MIDA to really help them foster and grow to improve and at least get back that magic that they had in the 2 seasons prior to this one. So in 7th place here was Hana Lim and Ye Kwan of Korea. And their rhythm dance is so similar to Brody and Somerville's. They're both using Let's Go Crazy and When Doves Cry. I love the program, but the biggest issue for me is their pattern step. I feel like it just slows way down from the rest of the program. And I also feel like that their Silver Samba pattern, which is the choreographic rhythm sequence, is also weaker as well. And those are sort of two things that really sort of bring down their score. So they were actually ninth after the rhythm dance, and that free skate just really pulled them up in the standings to seventh. And I feel like the free dance just really allows them to shine. And if you just watch how Hannah just accents everything, it's just, they have great chemistry. That curve lift that they do in the middle of the program where she's in a full split is just to die for. I mean, I've gushed over this program all season. I've gushed over this team all season. I was saying on Twitter, because I watched this part live, like most of Four Continents, I was like, no, not even going to attempt to watch it. I will go to sleep. I did watch the first two groups live, and then after Lim and Quan went and it was time for an ice cut, I'm like, yeah, I'm out. But when they finished that performance, I was like, if they don't get 110, like, I'm gonna be pissed. I'm gonna be pissed. And they got a 113, and I was okay. I'm satisfied. Fantastic score for them. They are just gradually creeping up the standings. They can just work on that rhythm dance. I think that's the biggest difference between what they're doing and what the Mrazeks are doing. Mrazeks usually have a stronger rhythm dance. We've seen them score up at around 75, but they've both been getting about similar numbers sort of in the free dance, and them getting a 113 here, I think, is huge for them. In eighth place was Komatsubaro and Koleto of Japan. And so let's talk for a second about what was kind of going on here with Team Japan. So as of today, Masato and Tim have been named to the world team, but that did not happen after U.S. Nationals, despite them winning at Japan Nationals, because it was just kind of all over the place. So Masato and Tim won, but they were second in both segments of the competition. So the second place team there won the rhythm dance, and the third place team there won the free dance. So it's kind of like an issue of like 2018 U.S. Nationals with the three ice dance teams there, where Maddie and Zach won, having finished second in both segments. The Shibutanis won the rhythm dance, and Chalk and Pates won the free dance. So you have all three teams, and it's like, well, who do we pick? You know, who's the number one team? It's difficult to say. And so Japan just sent all three of them here, like, have a skate off, and Masato and Tim had the best competition of their careers by far and away. Their rhythm dance, the Ghostbusters, which I thought when I saw it at NHK was just kind of like, okay, I thought it was so much better here. So much more speed, so much more like projection to the audience. First time in their careers that they've been over 70 points, which is a huge, huge barrier for them. And they're a team that I felt like years ago had just kind of plateaued. But this competition just kind of really showed a different level of performance, better technical elements, and just a better level of fight than I feel like that we've gotten from them. Even with those years fighting with Kana and Daisuke, they were definitely fighting, and they fought enough to get to the Olympics. But they were always clearly the weaker team, and I think that they've learned from that, and they've really worked to get better at some things that they needed to work on, and it showed up in the free dance too, because in the past, they've done like, Memoirs of a Geisha, and last year they were doing The Fifth Element, always some kind of movie or theme. And here they were just skating to a piece of music from Barbra Streisand called Loving You. And it's a little dull, but I feel like it was a different style from them than what we used to see. And for the first time in their careers, they got over 110 points. And I was thrilled for them. And she really, really wanted to hit that mark. And so they got that. And so while even though they lost a point, they were seventh in the rhythm dance and ended up eighth overall. I think they've got to be so pleased with what they were able to do here. And then most importantly, they got the nod, and they are going to Worlds in Montreal next month. In ninth place was Harris and Chan from Australia. And I thought this was another team that I thought this was probably the best competition of their careers, because they hit some high points in their free dance, especially, that they've never reached before, which was so great to see. So their rhythm dance is a Madonna rhythm dance. They're doing Like a Prayer, and they're doing Express Yourself. Love the costume, total commitment here. I'll certainly take Yuko Pirihara, okay, over Holly Harris, but I mean, she was given her best Madonna too, so I'm not mad at it. And so a season's best for them, just under 70 points in their rhythm dance. And then the free dance. And I really liked this free dance a lot when I first saw it at the beginning of the season in one of the challengers. I think it was Autumn Classic. And they scored horribly. And I'm like, but it's so pretty, but it's so interesting, and it's so well done. And I kind of felt like that all season. They just haven't really been able to to break out of that 100-point box at all. It's been sub 100 like pretty much all season, despite this really cool and interesting program. Just for whatever reason, it all came together here, and they got the best score of their lives here and got 107 points in that free dance and solidified themselves in the top 10. And I was just absolutely thrilled for them to finally get over that hump and get, over 99 and 101, 2, 3 points like they normally do. And I do think it's well deserved, because I do think this is a really stunning free dance that they do. In 10th place here was one of the other Japanese teams. So this was Yoshida and Morita. They were third at Japanese Nationals. So this was the team that won the free dance. They were fifth at Golden Spin. And she was actually formerly partnered with Nishiyama, who was in 11th place and who was second at Nationals. So their rhythm dance is not their rhythm dance, their free dance is to Ride of the Phoenix, which when she came out in the rhythm dance in the free dance, I was like, are they skating to Firebird? Because her costume looks like Firebird, and even parts of the music kind of sound like Firebird. But boy, I feel like the second half of this program just really comes alive. It's really strong. I love the intensity. The choreography is really effective. You can see how they won the free dance at Japanese Nationals. There's just a presence that this program has at the other two free skates, which are all both good from the Japanese pairs, that they just don't have, that this one does. And the 11th place was the other Japanese team of Tanaka and Nishiyama. Their rhythm dance was probably the most creative of the whole event. So this was the team skating to the Super Mario Brothers. He was Mario, she was Luigi. I thought maybe the music was a little too on the nose, because it had sounds so similar to the video game that it got a tad bit annoying at times, but it was so entertaining. I also really love their free dance. They're doing Giselle, the ballet. I love off the top the choreographic assisted jumps, because they look like something that you would see ballet dancers do. She slipped at the beginning of the midline step, which was such a bummer because it did cost them levels in GOE. But all in all, it probably only cost them about 3 points. So they would not have been ahead of their teammates anyway. So while they finished 12th in the free dance, they were able to stay in 11th place here. And had a personal best in the rhythm dance, not in the free dance, obviously with the mistakes, but totally enjoyed both of their programs. So that's all the teams that I'm going to talk about. I will give a shout out to a few other teams. So Chen and Xing, I remember them from Cup of China. They're doing their free dance to the Phantom of the Opera on ice. And so Zach Donahue is actually listed as one of the choreographers for that free dance. Wanted to throw that out there. In 15th place was Paulo Neves and Panazar from Brazil. And so while they train in London in the US, which I totally understand, don't know that there's a lot of rinks in Brazil and that there's any ice dance powerhouses, but I thought, I love it when we see just non-traditional nations doing ice skating, especially when they're doing paired disciplines like ice dance and pairs. So their short program, while they had a base value on their pattern step and low GOE overall, they were doing NXS and New Sensation. I thought they were just a fun team. They had no major mistakes. Really enjoyed them. And then in 16th place, so the last place here at the event, Li and Wang of China. And they were a junior team that was on the Junior Grand Prix this season. They were 9th and 10th in their Junior Grand Prix. And they were making their senior debut here. So they were basically doing the Madison and Evan remix in their rhythm dance with the Let's Dance by David Bowie that Maddie and Evan used last year. And then they also were using another One Bites the Dust from Queen. And they have this one move where she rolls under his legs at one point, which is very fun. I feel like you lose a lot of speed there, but she's just 16. So there's a huge upside for this team. She actually looks taller than he does. I know in their ISU profiles, he's listed as taller, but I'm like, she's probably had a growth spurt since they've done that, especially when they were sitting in the kiss and cry. She looked a lot taller, but she was a lot of fun. And I'm just another team that I just really thoroughly enjoyed. So another really fun ice dance competition, with the exception of the Canadian team in the second spot on the podium. Really enjoyable event, and look forward to how this shakes out when we get to Worlds. So, as always, again, thank you so much for listening to the podcast. You can find me on all the socials at Ice Skate Podcast. You can send me a line on email at thecuttingedgepod@gmail.com. I will be back with a couple of more recaps from Four Continents. In the meantime, I hope you enjoy some skating. If you didn't get a chance to watch Four Continent, check out the recaps. They're actually still on Peacock. They haven't gone away. Looks like they're going to be available for at least a week. So explain to me why Nationals recaps go away so quickly, but yet we still have European recaps up on Peacock, and these are longer. Whatever. I don't get it, but I'm excited about it. So enjoy that. Thanks, guys.